Am I the asshole for not telling my mom everything? So for context, I've been in therapy for a few weeks now. I have problems with germs, and so it results I get really freaked out whenever someone touches me or I have to touch something. It's been like this for years and keeps getting only worse, and so I agreed to therapy. I'm an adult, but barely 18. So while my dad pays for the sessions, my psychologist doesn't tell them anything at all. I have been seeing some progress in myself, and while it's not all that impressive, I'm proud of how far I've come. My mom does not see it the same way though. She keeps telling me why am I even going if I have no significant progress. Keep in mind today was only my 5th session. Every time I come home, she sits down and demands I tell her what we talked about, and every time I just say a vague idea of what was happening there. No details or anything. Mostly because the sessions go into so much detail on everything I can't touch, or all my possible reactions and feelings. I can't simply sum it up. Today I came home and said I feel like the next session should be my last, because I can't deal with her after my sessions, and it takes an emotional toll on me every time. I didn't say that to her though. Also, I feel like I can go on my own now that I'm on the right track somewhere, or at least lower the amount of sessions. She got upset, saying I obviously can't handle myself and to tell her what we talked about. I talked about some stuff, and in the spark of the moment I decided to mention he recommended I visit a psychiatrist and go on medication. He told me that on the 2nd session, but I was afraid to bring it up till now. Mom started freaking out how obviously I'm getting worse, and the sessions aren't working despite me telling her that he recommended that, due to my problems with attention. I couldn't deal with it anymore and just went to my room. I apologized for being a broken child, but she didn't respond and just stared right past me as if I wasn't there. I went upstairs right after. When I went to see her an hour later, I tried telling her the progress I made, that she couldn't see because it was outside of our house. She only got more upset that I don't tell her anything. We've had many talks about my mental health, and she has always gotten upset during it. Even if I tried to answer her questions, I was often confused by my own feelings, and I couldn't satisfy her with my answer. Currently, she's complaining about everything else as well, and I'm just feeling shit because of it. As long as we don't talk about my mental health, she's amazing, but I suppose it upsets her she can't know everything or can't help me in any way. Am I the asshole for not trying harder to explain to my mom about my conditions and feelings? Your therapy is private and solely between you and your therapist. Your overbearing mother needs to understand and respect these boundaries. It's important to communicate to her that her behavior is not helping, and if she truly supports your recovery, she needs to stop asking intrusive questions. Have you considered talking to your therapist about this situation and potentially involving your mother in a session to address her concerns? It may be helpful to have a professional guide the conversation and establish boundaries. Am I the asshole for giving advice to my sister-in-law and her husband that backed their foster daughter's therapist over their social worker? My wife's sister and her husband are foster parents. I, 29 years old male, was also a foster to adopt child when I was younger. Sister-in-law's current foster daughter has a history similar to mine, and for that reason and because her foster daughter's therapist and caseworker were not in agreement, she and her husband approached me for some advice, insight. My background: I lost my biological mother when I was 3. She had another son who was 8 at the time. After our biological mother's death, his father took custody of him, and because I had no biological family willing to take care of me, I went into foster care. The caseworker assigned to me was a big part in setting up sibling visits one Saturday a month, so my half-brother and I could maintain a relationship. When I was taken in by my parents and adopted, it continued. The visits were supposed to be in our best interest, but they weren't. My half-brother did not want to be there with me. He spent every visit for years ignoring me except for a couple of times where he yelled because I tried to get his attention or because the person supervising our visits encouraged him to play with me. The visits stopped when my half-brother was 16 and was allowed to have a say in them continuing. The whole thing devastated me and caused me to have more mental health problems than I did. I had no contact with my half-brother since that last visit when he was 16 and I was 11. I am open with my background with people I am close to, and my wife's sister and her husband are people I am close to. I admire them for being the kind of foster parents my parents were. Their foster daughter's history is similar, only she was older at the time of placement into foster care. But the lack of interest from her half-brother and sister is the same. They all share a father who was raising them, and he was arrested. There is no chance for reunification during her childhood. He will not be out. Her half-siblings live with their mother, and the caseworker in charge of their case has recommended the same visits I had with my brother. They have been ongoing for the last 2 years. But their foster daughter's court-assigned therapist does not agree with the visits and believes the lack of interest from the other kids is damaging. The caseworker cannot make sister-in-law and her husband maintain the visits, but she recommends they do. But the weight of the therapist means they won't face repercussions from it. Because of the two opposing sides, they came to me and I told them I would end them since they can at their own discretion. I told them they could always ask to keep the door open if things change in the future. My wife's parents think I overstepped, and they were angry that I sided with the therapist. They told me I could ruin their chances to foster more in the future if I piss off the caseworker enough, and that I weighed in where I had no professional insight. My wife and her sister defended me, but I would hate if they are right in any way. Am I the asshole? Your in-laws came to you for your insight, and you provided a thoughtful response based on experience. The therapist's opinion should hold more weight than the caseworker's due to their training and focus on the child's well-being. It's important to prioritize the foster child's comfort and security, and forcing them to visit hostile step-siblings would only add to their insecurities. Stick to your instincts and trust that you have the child's best interests at heart. Am I the asshole for not agreeing with my mom's rules? I, 26 female, still live at home with my mother, sister, and her 2 children. My sister is 28 years old and will be turning 29 soon. I believe she has enough money to move out but doesn't want to because she doesn't want to be responsible. She doesn't want to pay bills or take care of her own children and expects everything to be given to her. She never watches her kids when she is home and shifts that responsibility to me and my mother. My mother then passes it on to me, using her sickness as an excuse. My mom has been ready for us to move out, but she is more focused on me moving out. My sister gets to do whatever she wants, whenever she wants because she has kids. My mom doesn't want to kick my sister out because she has kids and is afraid something will happen to them. There was a time when my mom tried to kick my sister out and she threatened to take the kids with her. My mom wanted her to leave the kids, but my sister refused, making my mom fearful. Many nights my sister goes out and we have no idea who she is with or where she is. My mom doesn't have her number and my sister doesn't want anyone to have it. My mom complains to me about all of this but never takes any action. When my sister comes home the next morning, nothing is said to her. This feels unfair because my sister does this on school days and doesn't return until later. So I have to get her kids ready for school and drop them off while my sister is absent and won't return until after the kids have been dropped off. I then have to go to work later in the day after dropping them off. I used to have a boyfriend and I would go out at night, but my mom told me that I am no longer allowed to go out at night or I will be kicked out. She says she doesn't feel comfortable with me going out at night because she doesn't know where I am or what I am doing. Before we broke up, she told me that if I left again, I would have to move in with my boyfriend permanently. My mom is sick herself and has had 4 surgeries in 1 year. She is not capable of doing much and expects me to take care of her. She knows my sister won't help and will use the kids as an excuse. Due to my sister's behavior, my mom has to take care of my sister's children most of the time. Since she's not capable of doing much, she passes the responsibility on to me. So, I have to take care of my sister's kids and my mom at the same time. I don't agree with it, but my mom makes me feel guilty for not wanting to help with my sister's kids. Things won't change unless something happens to my mom or unless I move out. I am planning to move out soon, but it's a process. It just bothers me that my sister waited until I decided to move out to show that she wants to be responsible. Not the antagonist, but you need to get out of there like yesterday. The weird double standard that exists in your home is never going to change, so quit looking for things to be fair. Just know they aren't. Never will be. Move out already. Don't listen to any guilt trips from mom's sister. They made their own beds, not you. Your sister has nothing to do with this. You are 26 years old. It's time to move out and be an adult. Would I be the asshole if I uninvite a man from my wedding because he started being a bit creepy? I, 30 years old female, am getting married later this year to my wonderful fiancé, 34 years old male, and we sent out our invitations around 6 months ago. Most things are going well, but there's one small issue. I really regret inviting one of the guys from my office. I'll call him Greg. When I started my job about a year ago, Greg seemed fine, a little over-friendly, but I didn't get any weird vibes from him. We talk in the office and on Teams occasionally because we have 1 or 2 interests in common. When I told Greg I was getting married this year, he responded with the usual congratulations, followed by something that implied he expected an invite. We had space and again he seemed an okay guy, so an invite has gone out to him. Recently, however, I've really started to regret inviting him. He started using weird terms of endearment when he messages me, like hey sweetie or hi angel, which did weird me out a bit, because those are the sorts of things my fiancé calls me, but I brushed it off as just how he is. Then, a few weeks ago, Greg messaged out of the blue to say he wished I lived closer to him so that we could hang out and get to know each other better. Again, I got a weird vibe. If I were single, I wouldn't be asking engaged guys I barely know to hang out, but hey, that's just me. He said similar things again since and I've just kind of brushed it off. The final straw was a few days ago. He sent me a message asking where I live. I thought it was a bit odd. We hadn't been speaking that day, so it was out of nowhere, but he has my address from our wedding invite, so I reminded him of the town. He then told me that was close to a friend of his, and maybe he'd drop by sometime to bother me. This felt really strange to me, and so I told him directly not to just show up at my house. He assured me he wouldn't, but I guess we'll see on that front. I haven't raised this to my boss because I don't feel like he's done anything that constitutes harassment or the like, but I have discussed it with both my fiancé and a close colleague, and they've both said it's giving off creepy vibes. I know these things probably sound minor, but they've made me feel uncomfortable to be around this guy, and I dread every time I get a message through from him. We don't work closely. We work for 2 separate companies owned by the same parent company, so I don't have to engage with him as part of my job. So I'm wondering if I would be the asshole if I uninvite him from my wedding? If not, any advice on how best to go about this would be hugely appreciated. No need to worry about dealing with his inappropriate behavior at your wedding. It's your special day, don't let him ruin it. And if he keeps pushing boundaries, don't hesitate to report it to HR. Am I the Ahole for not wanting my sister-in-law to be involved in my romantic life? I have a couple of people tell me that I'm the asshole here, and I don't know what to do in this situation. For context, I, 18-year-old male, have extremely strict parents that I still live with. They had very typical strict parent rules, but specifically they've always had a problem with me dating, to the extent that they would freak out if I was talking to any girls romantically or not. To give an example of the extent of this, when I was a younger teenager, they encouraged me to get a journal to write my thoughts. They then proceeded to read through it and punish for admitting I had a crush on a girl. Since I've become an adult, they have become slightly more relaxed, however, they're still very unreasonable when it comes to dating. Because of this, I don't tell them when I go on casual dates. Should a relationship become exclusive and serious, I would tell them, because I want them to approve of my partner. Now into the story. I've been talking to this girl for a few weeks now and gone on a couple of casual dates. We've been taking it very slow, and things have been healthy so far. Recently it's become official and exclusive, and I had every intention of telling my parents by introducing them to her, and was simply waiting for the opportunity to have them meet her. However, on our most recent date, when things became official, my sister-in-law, 20-year-old female, saw us. To give you backstory on the type of person she is the definition on basic white girl. Wannabe cowgirl, big Swiftie, $14 Starbucks drinks every other day type of girl. She also absolutely loves drama. She loves to cause drama. However, she can't take it herself and will block anyone who even remotely upsets. I've never liked my sister-in-law, but for some reason she's also never blocked me, and we are on speaking terms. Back to the story, she saw me on this date, and knowing my parents, she told them about it, which led to my parents blowing up about me dating someone without them knowing and hiding it from them. Once again, I planned to tell them, but never had the chance before this happened, as we had only become official days before. I feel uncomfortable and upset with the fact that she forced her way into my love life, which she knew nothing about, in order to specifically cause drama. And she will admit that she did that to make my parents upset specifically. She also claims she's simply looking out for me. I don't know what to do in this situation. I definitely could have communicated with my parents more, and so this definitely could be my fault. I've been told that I'm the asshole here for not telling them, and for trying to control my sister-in-law actions and expecting her not to do what she did. Am I the asshole here? I already have to look forward to another rough conversation with my parents about this all, as well as my sister-in-law potentially, so I guess we'll see how that goes. Unfortunately, the only way to avoid this was to tell parents ASAP. But the issue is, you're a grown man, and it isn't their business for the most part. You're in a rock and a hard place. Am I the jerk for saying no to my son's job as a male stripper? My 42-year-old, twin sons, 19-year-old, are college sophomores. They go to a university in our city but do not live at home. I pay their tuition and expenses. They are great guys, charismatic, quite good students. They are also good dancers. A weird thing to mention usually, but this is important later. My late wife's sister is a professional dancer and teacher, and all through their teen years taught them jazz, modern swing, salsa, and even some ballroom. So last year sometime one of their friends was bemoaning maid of honor duties for her older sister's wedding, including arranging a bachelorette party. They wanted to do something corny and get a stripper but couldn't find anyone. Apparently one of my boys, probably Skylar, being pretty outgoing and a good dancer, piped up and said, "Hell, I'll do it," which later turned into, "Hey, we'll do it." And the guys actually did it. They thought it was a lot of fun, and the easiest $750 they'd ever made. I couldn't care less. In fact, I thought it was pretty funny. Apparently with word of mouth, someone else's bridal party also asked. And another. One thing leads to another, and they're doing this a couple of times a month. They actually form a little business, come up with a theme, lifeguards since they had both done that before, got their costumes, or lack thereof, had music professionally mixed, business cards, different levels of entertainment packages. They even took a male stripper academy course online. Who knew there was such a thing? From some guy in Australia that teaches dances and techniques. So do I care? Not a bit. It's slightly naughty but actually innocent fun, making a lot of money for what they think is incredibly easy and just having fun. I've seen video of their routine. I'm only watched up to a certain point if you get my drift. And actually they are really good, and are crowd pleasers. Here's the thing, one thing I do care about. They have booked a bachelorette party in a month or so. Unlike all the rest, in this case I know the bride. I know her family. Her dad works with me, and I socially know several of the other women likely to attend. That just gives me the icks. Go strip off and grind it for strangers. I don't want people I know sticking dollar bills, wherever. And I don't want to run into someone I know at the grocery store to hear them say, "Oh, I saw Reese and Skylar." In fact, I saw quite a lot of them. I told my boys I'd rather they didn't do the job, that they should refund the deposit. They refused. I then got a little more stern about it. I didn't quite play the "I'm paying for your school" card, but might have hinted at it. They didn't exactly call me an asshole. Very respectful boys. They would never do that. But they are not happy. They say I'd be costing them $1,000 and their reputation. I'm not sure what they are going to do. So am I an asshole for putting my foot down? I understand where you are coming from, but it's important to remember that for college kids, this is real money. It may seem like naughty foolishness to you, but to them it's a job they value and worked hard for. In this situation, offering to pay them what they would have made not to do it could be a compromise. Threatening to cut off school funding is not the way to handle this, as it can cause long-term damage to your relationship with your children. Instead, address any inappropriate jokes head-on and make it clear that you do not appreciate them. Remember that it's your coworker who would be crossing a line, not your children. Address the situation with seriousness and set boundaries if needed. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.